Did you know Samson had a specific mark on him? This same mark had led to his death. This story might just shock you. Welcome to God's Word Unmasked, where we peel back the layers of biblical history to reveal hidden truths and fascinating stories. If you enjoy our content, consider subscribing, and we promise to keep bringing you engaging and enlightening videos. Okay, let's dive into the story. In the town of Zorah within the tribe of Dan lived a man named Manoah and his wife, who had no children. But one day, an angel of the Lord appeared to her.
Behold now, thou art barren, and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive, and bear a son. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive, and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines.
The angel told the wife of Manoah that she will give birth to a child. During her pregnancy, she should not drink any wine or beer and eat any food that isn't kosher. The biggest warning the angel gave to the woman was that the child's hair should never be cut, because God has selected the child to be a special servant of God from the time of his birth, and he will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines. After the woman heard this, she was obviously happy because God had answered her prayers. She ran and told her husband everything. After Manoah heard this, he prayed to God to provide more instruction to them on how they can take care of this child. God heard Manoah's prayer, and the angel returned and gave more details to them. After that, Manoah and his wife offered a sacrifice to the Lord, and the angel ascended in the flame of the altar, confirming the divine promise. In due time, the woman gave birth to a son and named him Samson. The Bible states that Samson was blessed as he grew, and the Spirit of God was within him. One day, when Samson was in Timnah, he noticed a certain Philistine girl. Let's just say Samson found love at first sight. When he got home, he told his father and mother that he wanted to marry her. He stated,
I've seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife.
Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines?
Samson's father asked him why he couldn't find a nice girl from the tribes of Israel instead of a Philistine. Samson stated to his father,
Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well.
Samson's parents wanted him to be happy, but they didn't approve of his request. The Bible, however, stated that this was all part of God's plan to remove the Philistines, who ruled Israel at the time. As Samson and his parents journeyed to Timnah, a young lion attacked Samson in the vineyards outside the town. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and he tore the lion's jaws apart with his bare hands. Samson didn't tell his parents about it. Upon reaching Timnah, Samson spoke with the girl and found her to his liking. So plans for marriage were made. On his way back for the wedding, he passed the spot where he killed the lion and found bees and honey inside its carcass. He took some honey and gave some to his parents. As his father arranged the marriage, Samson threw a bachelor party for the young men of his village. He proposed a riddle to them.
I will now put forth a riddle to you. If you can solve it within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing.
Samson offered the men 30 fancy and plain robes if they could solve the riddle within 7 days that they were at the party. But if they couldn't solve it, Samson would take 30 fancy and plain robes from them. On the 4th day, the men threatened Samson's wife, demanding she get the answer from him, or they would burn down her father's house with her inside. She cried and pleaded with Samson to tell her the answer.
Behold, I have not told my father nor my mother, and shall I tell you?
Samson didn't reveal the answer to his wife. She continued to cry, and on the 7th day, Samson finally told her the answer. She promptly shared it with the young men before sunset, fulfilling their agreement. Samson was angry that his wife had told them the answer, but he still fulfilled his promise. He traveled to Ashkelon, killed 30 men, took their clothing, and gave it to the young men who had solved the riddle. Furious, Samson abandoned his wife and returned home to live with his parents. Later, Samson took a young goat as a gift to his ex-wife, intending to reconcile with her. However, her father refused to let Samson see her, believing Samson hated her. He informed Samson that he had given her to his best man, but offered Samson her younger and prettier sister instead. Samson became even angrier, stating he couldn't be blamed for what would happen next.
Now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure.
So Samson caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together in pairs, with a torch between each pair, and set them loose in the fields of the Philistines. The foxes burned the grain fields, sheaves, shocks of grain, and olive trees. When the Philistines asked who did this, they were told it was Samson. Learning that his wife had been given to another man, the Philistines burned her and her father alive. Hearing this, Samson vowed vengeance.
Now my vengeance will strike again.
So Samson attacked them with great fury and killed many of them. Then he went to hide in a cave. The Philistines sent a large group to capture him, leading to the men of Judah, asking Samson why he had caused such trouble, knowing the Philistines ruled over them. Samson explained to the men that he was only retaliating for what they did to him. The men of Judah agreed to capture him for the Philistines, but promised not to kill him themselves. They tied him up and took him to the Philistines, who were excited to see him. However, the Lord gave Samson great strength, and he broke free from the ropes. He then picked up a donkey's jawbone and killed 1,000 Philistines with it. After everything, Samson was very thirsty and prayed to the Lord, asking if he would now die of thirst despite the great victory he had just achieved for Israel. God answered his prayer by making water flow from a hollow in the ground. That day, even though the Philistines continued to control the land, Samson led Israel for the next 20 years. As the years went by, Samson still did not stay away from the city of the Philistines because he loved the women there. One day, Samson went to the Philistine city of Gaza and spent the night with a prostitute. Word soon spread that he had been seen in the city, so the police were alerted, and many men of the city waited all night at the city gate to capture him if he tried to leave. They planned to kill him in the morning, but Samson stayed with the girl and left at night. Before he left that night, he pulled out the gates of the city from the ground and left it in the mountains. Later on, you guys wouldn't guess what happened. Yes, Samson once again fell in love with another Philistine girl named Delilah, who lived in the valley of Sorek. When the 5 leaders of the Philistine nation heard this, they went personally to her and demanded that she find out from Samson what made him so strong, so that they would know how to overpower and subdue him and put him in chains. They promised to give her 1,000 pieces of silver each if she discovered his secret. Delilah agreed and began her mission.
Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee.
If they bind me with 7 green withes that were never dried, then shall I be weak, and be as another man.
So obviously the Philistine leaders brought Delilah the 7 bowstrings, and while he slept, Delilah, an innocent sweet girlfriend, tied him with them. Some men were even hiding in the next room, so as soon as she had tied him up, she yelled,
The Philistines be upon thee, Samson.
But Samson snapped the bowstrings like cotton thread, and so his secret was not discovered. The next time he was with Delilah, she stated to him,
Behold, thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound.
If they bind me fast with new ropes that never were occupied, then shall I be weak, and be as another man.
So that time, as he slept, Delilah took brand new ropes and tied him with them. The men were hiding in the next room, as before. Again, Delilah yelled,
The Philistines be upon thee, Samson.
But Samson once again broke the ropes from his arms. Delilah became upset and stated to him,
Hitherto thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound.
If thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web.
So while he was sleeping, Delilah weaved the 7 braids of his hair into the fabric on her loom and tightened it with the loom shuttle. Then she yelled out,
"The Philistines be upon thee, Samson."
but when he woke up, he yanked his hair away, breaking the loom. The next day, Delilah could not stand what he was doing anymore. She stated,
"How canst thou say, I love thee, when thine heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherein thy great strength lieth."
After this, Delilah nagged at him every day until he couldn't stand it any longer, and finally told her his secret.
There hath not come a razor upon mine head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak, and be like any other man.
Samson finally told Delilah the truth, letting her know his hair has never been cut, and he has been blessed by God since birth. If his hair were cut, his strength would weaken like any man. After hearing this, Delilah knew he was finally telling the truth, so she sent for the 5 Philistine leaders. They brought the money with them. Delilah urged Samson to sleep with his head in her lap, and they brought in a barber and cut off his hair while he slept. Delilah began to hit him, but she could see that his strength was leaving him. Then she screamed,
"The Philistines be upon thee, Samson."
When Samson woke up, he was confident that he could act as usual and break free. However, he didn't realize that the Lord had left him, so the Philistines captured him and gouged out his eyes and took him to Gaza, where he was bound with bronze chains and made to grind grain in the prison. But not before long, his hair began to grow again. The Philistine leaders declared a great festival to celebrate the capture of Samson. The people made sacrifices to their god Dagon and excitedly praised him. The Philistines, seeing Samson in chains, gloated that their god had delivered their enemy into their hands. They celebrated that the man who had killed many of them was now captured. As they got drunk, they called for Samson to be brought out so they could mock and make fun of him. By then, the temple was completely filled with people. The 5 Philistine leaders were there, as well as 3,000 people in the balconies who were watching Samson and making fun of him. Then Samson prayed to the Lord and said,
O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me. I pray thee, only this once, O God, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes.
Then Samson pushed against the pillars with all his might, praying, O Lord, let me die. And the temple crashed down upon the Philistine leaders and all the people. So those he killed at the moment of his death were more than those he had killed during his entire lifetime. Later, his brothers and other relatives came down to get his body, and they brought him back home and buried him between Zorah and Eshtal, where his father, Manoah, was buried. He had led Israel for 20 years, and that was the story of Samson, the man that God marked to save the Israelites from the Philistine. God had planned everything prior, and Samson was the last judge of Israel in the book of Judges. Hopefully, you guys were able to learn something new. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is a side note. I really appreciate every single subscriber. Right now, we are on a journey to 50K subscribers. Please subscribe and share our videos. Our promise to you for taking the time to like, comment, and share is to bring you the best quality videos with multiple secrets from all the books. I want everyone to keep in mind that this channel focuses not just on the Bible, but also on all the stories of God, the Ethiopian Bible, and the Apocryphas. Please check the description box below. We try our best to leave supportive documents to read and Bible verses.